everyone. My name is Khushbu Sharma, and on behalf of Voice of Healthcare Incubator, welcome to everyone who's joining us today. Today I have the pleasure of having with me Mr. Abhay Vohra, a lawyer deeply involved in the startup space across various sectors of industries and healthcare being the one of them. Abhay has recently been recognized with accolades such as Forbes Top 100, ALB Super 50, and I'm sure many more that are on your way. Abhay is currently the founding partner at Metalaw. He also plays a significant role as our mentor at the expert panel of mentors and advisors that we have at VOH Incubator. So thank you so much, Abhay, for your time today, and it's a pleasure to have you.
No, thank you so much for having me, and that was quite an introduction. I couldn't write one. Please help me with my LinkedIn profile very soon.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, yes, happy to help, and thanks for the opportunity. Voice of Healthcare. When it started, I still remember Dr. Nishal giving me a call, and I've known him for God, plenty of years. I was a very junior associate at a very big law firm at that point in time when I met Dr. Nishal for the first time. And in a lot of ways, he's guided me. And I remember the day he randomly, recently last year, called me up and said, "This is what I'm starting. These are the three things. So I'm going to have industry experts. I'm going to have this." And I asked her, "This is your way of giving back, isn't it? And I know why the call is for. Whatever it is, I am in." And since that day on, I think it's been quite a journey. And I hope VOH as a connecting platform, not only as an incubator, goes way ahead and connects a lot of not only the startups with the already very matured players in the market, and if there are any concerns, we are happy to help.
No, absolutely. As you rightly mentioned, that we try and thrive to connect the industries, not just interconnection, maybe the intra-connections as well. And with the people like you, the set of mentors, advisors that we have already, I think the startups that are already incubated, the startups who try to incubate, have the right set of people who probably would guide them through the way. So, Abhay, the interaction today is aimed in a way that we try and answer the common questions that we feel might be in a founder's mind, me as a startup or maybe me as a founder who just has an idea in my mind and just wants to go up out of the ideation stage. So I think we'll have a kind of interaction around that today.
Sure.
So starting from the fact that there has been a noise in the industry since pretty long in terms of massive valuations, maybe in the race of becoming a unicorn over the past few decades. And now given the situation of the global economy we're in, and specifically to say the funding winter, because this is something that's been quoted since many long now. So what do you think the Indian startup ecosystem stands today in, and what's the way forward to it?
Look, overall, I think yes, there has been a race to valuation. There's no doubt about it, and the culture has developed, but the culture has given a lot to the overall environment we live in today, and to the overall contribution to society as well. Yes, over the last I won't say 10 years, but in the last 3-4 years, the passion about when a founder starts out was driven by passion, and then it suddenly shifted, and I've seen that shift because I've interacted with quite a few that value they're going and looking at only the valuations and stuff like that. So yes, I think there is the funding winter question, which is I've been asked quite a lot. And in terms of answering your question, I think I think yes, there are corrections in the market. Yes, the global economy, but the global economy has not really impacted us significantly, so to speak. The corrections, to be very honest, I think were required. And with the valuation corrections, what you see now is, and what we are witnessing now is that there is a little, as in that there's a greater lens being put on the startups and their profitability and their mere scalability. So it's not the user base, it's the actual live number of paid subscriptions that are being looked at. And had this correction not happened, people were blindly betting on the idea is good, the projections seem nice, so let's put the money in. And that was also encouraging the founders to just give projection based on a very uh, uh, how to say this right, because if we have the system of DCF valuation and you just give your projections and the valuations come out. But I think there is much more maturity that is going to come into the ecosystem now. The correction and the reset, like I said, was definitely required, because it's given a sense of greater responsibility to the founders to be true to the numbers that they project, because when you are putting those numbers out, you are net inducing a person to invest in the company, which in the field of practice where I come from, had those numbers been incorrect, and many a times there have been, and this technically also constitutes fraud. So yes, there is a maturity around the numbers you're going to play with. There is even the investors are looking at every piece of information very closely. And even the cases which we have seen in the recent times around the startup ecosystem, the books are being looked at very, very carefully. There is greater amount of inspection. So while the funding winter is there, what has happened is, it's not as if the deals are not happening. It's just that it's not happening at the valuation they would have happened, say 2 years ago. And there is greater scrutiny around the numbers and what the company is doing, and which stage that they are at, and which stage they should be deserving enough to get money for scalability, and then for the money to convert into real value for the investors. From that standpoint, I think the reset will help. And where do we stand today? And in terms of one of these questions I get quite often is, will the glory continue? Look, to be fair to what the startup ecosystem, not only in India but even abroad, started from US, and then it came to India, and now you see a lot of startup ecosystem making noise in Southeast Asia, in countries like Indonesia, in Thailand specifically. So what has innovation given to us in terms of our day-to-day behavior, in terms of our day-to-day utilization of service, in terms of accessibility and ease of accessibility? I don't think we could have even ever thought what life is now. And Gen Zs operate a very different kind of way as to where we come from, because we didn't have that kind of access to the market, especially things like Bumble and Tinder. So I don't think innovation is going anywhere. I think there is only a greater future for innovation. And even if you see the typical ancestral businesses and those business tycoons, take for example Reliance. They had a very set petro business, and now they are moving into a digital space, because they also realize that if they don't adopt to this change of which innovation has brought about, industries overall which have been running and functioning like brick and mortar will not be able to survive. Right. So I don't think this sector is going anywhere. I think the glory will only continue. It will be a rise and shine moment. There are downfalls in every sector, and this is not really a downfall, it's just a economic variation. And given the fact that I think the innovation space has a lot more to offer, I don't see why it shouldn't continue. I don't think it's going anywhere for the next 30 years at least.
Sure. I think moving on, right from the basics, let's say I am a startup and I just have an idea in my mind. I don't have anything, I don't know anything about how the steps work, how does the hierarchy works while I'm setting up. So is there a piece of advice that you want to give me as a startup, or maybe just a founder who has an idea in my mind, what would be my first thoughts of setting it up, a business model?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. Business, when you come to business modeling, typically when startups are set up, they come up with a business model, but the lawyer's engagement at that point in time is not there. So it just and I've seen this with a lot many sector. I've seen fintech being, when I never knew the word fintech, I've done fintech. I've done health tech when there was no word like health tech. I've done gaming when we were still debating whether gaming can be done in India or not. So having covered across those aspects, in terms of business modeling, I think it's very important that while you are placing interaction with the stakeholder interaction in a regulated sector needs to be modeled a certain way. And we have seen the law develop around it. Initially, there were only case laws around it. Now there are definite laws around it, because the speed at which technology has moved, the law takes time to catch up, but it's getting there. So I've done fintech when there was no word like fintech. It's only now we are seeing the regulations around it. I still remember doing online consultation modeling when there was no regulations around online consultation, which only came about I think in March 2020, 31st March 2020, during COVID time. Thankfully we didn't have to change any word, but I remember the words of one of the founders, and he was still at an ideation stage, and I asked him this question: why are you coming to me at this time? He's like, because I've had one failed startup because of legal. I don't want to have any more legal hassles. So we took nice 1.5 months, structured the business model as per the stakeholders involved. So I think when you're doing the business structuring, your interaction between stakeholders, how the money will flow, what the money will do, who will pay who, which account does it go to, is it a regulated sector, what are the licenses I need to have. All these questions need to be answered at the very beginning, at the time of formation of the business model. Unfortunately so, that people don't approach lawyers at that stage, and when I think the maximum time and the maximum effort goes, and the biggest IP goes into business modeling and business structuring. Rest all follows. You set a good base and a foundation. Like any construction site, you go, you see the saria being there. So business model is those ironclad pillars on which your building will stand.
Great. So you've said that I think setting up a sustainable business model and a solid model with a lot of transparency of what goes in, what goes out to whoever who goes to, I think would be the key steps of building up a model. And I think a part of it you've already answered, but that was my next question, that what according to you is the correct time for a lawyer to pitch in into a business model?
Look, I don't think the lawyers need to pitch in into the business model. I think the clients should approach, because I think even like any other what innovation has done, like things like Chat GPT across, the lawyers are going to be cheap in some time, and we as a part of our exercise do engage in advising lawyers, and so I'm a part of Voice of Health incubators, and even otherwise my team is always ready to help out, not at a very high cost or on pro bono basis. We do believe that we need to give back to the community as well in terms of structuring their business model, because that is the right time. Your first time needs to be the right time. People often go to lawyers at the time of funding, when they've already pitched the business model, when they've already developed the product, and then by the time they come to your terms and conditions, and when I ask them questions around their business model, and plenty of times I find that the business model is wrong, because the thing happened to be in a regulated sector. But
it has to be right from the foundation.
The foundation needs to be right, needless to say.
Now, we've talked decently about the global economy that we're in. We've talked about funding winter. We've talked about the first steps that me or probably anybody as a startup needs to take. But I think the most important question that all of our viewers also would want to understand is the phase where fundraising comes in. What to keep in mind? How do I go about it? So many questions in my head. So is there one piece of advice that you want to give out to the startups or maybe the founders out there who are into the phase of maybe raising a fund?
Look, I think first of all, be honest. Be honest to yourself. Be honest to your investors. Be correct to the numbers and the projections, keeping it conservative and not overly dramatic, which also at times we've seen. In return, I think the investors will be kind enough to be fair to you. So the place in the ecosystem where we stand, I believe a lot in balancing of power and rights, and that is the reason why I called this law firm Metalaw, because Metalaw means correlation of rights and duties between different human species and those beyond. I hope we get to those beyond thanks to innovation at some point in time. But yes, I stand for a balancing of power. I've seen some very hard terms being given to promoters at a very early stage when probably they didn't have the bargaining power. But overall, I think the founder and founders themselves are revolutionizing. They're also realizing that they are equally a part of this or greater part of this ecosystem than the investors themselves. So I think be careful while your fundraising documents, especially in terms of balancing of power. Their rights are what you have given to them is honest number. You deserve back a certain fairness in terms of you having flexibility and the liquidity, at least in the early stages, to have more mentors on board, more advisors on board, or to get a co-founder later. So typically you have restrictions around it, but keep certain percentage of the equity out of that, which we in legal terms called promoter liquidity. And very recently we also have started creating certain amount which can be taken out by the promoter and allowing him or her to sell a stake for health exigencies, for marriage, because these are real life conditions which you need to address in the documents, which unfortunately we haven't seen. And most of the times in the investor promoter disputes, and I've done quite a few, I've done around 38 of them in the last 3 years, successfully settled around 32 of them. Very seldom do I come across where a shareholders agreement has helped me much, because I think the nuances, the real life nuances are missing in the document. So in terms of rights, yes, you need to give rights, but there also needs to be exceptions created out, like to the ones I mentioned. And of course there is a long list which I don't want to get into this right now, because that's a topic of some other day. But having said that, yes, I think balancing of power is the way to go.
Well, thanks for that, Abhay. Now moving on, leveraging the fact that you here are representing a legal community for us.
Correct.
So what according to you, you think the legal community as a whole can contribute to the startup ecosystem, be it healthcare, non-healthcare, anything?
So I'll give you an example for this. We as professionals, and coming from a background, and you'll see it in our Advocates Act as well, it being written that this is a noble profession like those of doctors. So definitely there is a part of the fraternity which strongly believes that we need to give back to society. and hence the pro bono concept is very active across most firms that you see, and a lot of litigation guys also do it and practice it very humbly. And in terms of the contributions, it's not only the free advice. I think the contributions are also made in terms of helping, especially startups where they are falling in the gray. I still remember one of the key fintech startups was in a space of gray. We wrote to the RBI. People are threatened by RBI and SEBI. I don't know for what goddamn reason. Some of my very I've made some very good friends from working in these organizations, and they've guided me a lot how I should go about things and how the modeling should be. There is a sandbox mechanism, and the legal community has been active enough to participate in the sandbox mechanism to remove that gray. And on the healthcare side, I'll give you an example. Mental health being a topic which is very sensitive and close to me and personal to me. So initially, when you see insurances didn't cover mental aspects, mental health care aspects, and there were enough case laws to it, but the law was not supporting it. So we pursued, and a lot of celebrities also participated. And it is only with the help of the activist, mental health activists, plus the lawyer community that it was finally included in the insurance sector. And I still stand that next petition that should be filed is replace the mental illness with mental wellness. And one of my clients in 2014, very new to, I don't even think the startup ecosystem was much there, was FitPass. So I remember with them, and because they used to have fitness packages subscribed into 5,000 gyms. You can go to any, easy accessibility. You want to go near your home, you want to go near your office, but direct to consumer at that point of time was a different ball game as it is today. So the tie-ups were important, and then we pursued with the government that wellness as a concept needs to be built into the insurance regime, and made a mandatory requirement. And it's finally in 2017 or 18. No, I'm wrong there. But yeah, in the last 2 or 3 years, we saw that change happening, and wellness was included, same as the case with mental health. So these are the small ways where we don't be in the forefront, but be in the back front to help the entire industry, sectors, and the ecosystem as a whole.
One latest piece of technology maybe that you are currently eyeing on, maybe you're currently using, healthcare or no healthcare, any certain gadget that you are very stumbled upon, okay, this is also something that can be done out of technology.
Look, though being a technology lawyer, I'm very daft when it comes to technology. It is a task for me to operate my WhatsApp also, though I use it very conveniently now. But I think drones and what they can do, and how the delivery systems and the security system they can help.
They've disrupted the logistical industry like anything. Okay, I think now we are talking about technology, and you've already confessed that you're not a very big I'd say follower of how technology is working in. ChatGPT is one thing that has been caught our ears and eyes since long. So there was a news, I think a few months back, that ChatGPT cleared the law exam in the US just by answering or writing a few essays on things like constitutional law, taxation law, and I think some more. So
you can ask them. You can ask it questions even on extraterritorial space law aspects also.
These words are alien to me.
Yeah, but ChatGPT is a threat to the kind of people practicing law who believe in standardized documents. I don't. Unfortunately, my synergy is more, even in investment transaction, is more in balancing of power. So I don't believe in getting one set of standardized document. I don't think it works. And anyways, yeah, it is a nice piece of technology though. I quite like it, especially if you have to post on LinkedIn.
It helps you create an influential content, I think, in that ways. Okay, so moving on, I think this would be the last for today. The one piece of advice, one word, one quote that you'd like to give out to the founders, startup minds out there, just to navigate the way through.
दिशा, दृष्टि, दृढ़ निश्चय, हाँ, और दबाव में मत आना, उसके लिए हम हैं.
Lovely interaction with you.
Yeah,
Thank you
same
so
here.
much. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
all right.